In this lecture, I am going to talk about two independent normal random variables. So, if we have two independent normal random variables with a certain parameters, the question is, what does the joint PDF looks like? What does the joint PDF look like? So, let's say I have two random variables x and y. The x is a normal random variable. It is denoted by capital N of the mean is mu x and the variance is sigma x square, and this n indicates normal random variable. Similarly, the y also normally distributed with the mean is mu y and the variance is sigma y square. Now one can ask a question, if x and y are independent, then what does the joint PDF look like? Okay, so x and y are independent. Okay, therefore the x is described in terms of its density function fx of x, and the y is described by its density function fy of y. Now what is the density function of fx of x? This is going to be 1 by 2 1 by root of 2 pi times sigma x square e to the power minus of x minus mu x the whole square divided by 2 sigma x square. And then similarly for fy of y is equal to 1 over square root of 2 pi sigma y square times e to the minus x minus mu y the whole square over sigma y square. These are the marginal density function of x and y respectively. Now the question is like how do you find the joint PDF? So since it is a independent random variable, the joint PDF is the product of marginal density functions equal to fx of x times fy of y. So if you multiply these two, then it is going to be 2 pi sigma x times sigma y, then exponential of, here you will get x minus mu the whole square divided by 2 sigma square minus y minus, this is mu x, let me rewrite properly, mu x the whole square y minus mu y whole square divided by 2 sigma y square. So this is the joint probability density function. Okay, let me call this as equation number 1. Now if they are independent, by definition the joint PDF is the product of the individual PDFs. So individual PDF, you take this one and this one, you take the product of those two PDFs. Okay, and the PDF, each one of them involves an exponential of something. See here I have exponential of here for the random variable y, and here I have the exponential for the random variable x. So when you multiply, the exponent will add. Okay, we'll add them up. So and the product of the two exponentials is the exponential of the sum. So you just add the exponents. So this is the formula for the joint PDF. So fxy of x comma y. So this is the formula for joint PDF of two independent normal random variable. Now you look at that formula and you ask, what does it look like? You take the exponent. Okay, so you can understand it a function of two random variables. See, this is a function of two random variables. Now I can think about the contours of this function. So let me take this x minus mu x the whole square divided by 2 sigma, this is by the way x square minus y minus mu y whole squared divided by 2 sigma y square. Take this guy. Okay, so this look like a contours of the function, density function. So contour means what? Look at the points at which the function takes a constant value. So when I say contour, the points at which the function takes constant value. That means what? The whole thing is equal to constant, some constant value. So whenever it is taking constant, then see then it is a contour. For different x and y values, it is going to be constant. So for all possible values of x and y, you are going to get a constant. So for different x and y, you will get different constant, and that is going to be different contours. So what is the shape of the set of points where this is a constant? So it looks like like an ellipse. Okay, so consider all x's and y's for which this expression okay is a constant. Okay, so that is, this expression here is a constant value. Therefore the PDF, once you give the constant value to the PDF to the function density function, then you'll get a constant probability density function. Therefore the PDF is constant on the ellipse, because this expression looks like an ellipse equation. Therefore on the ellipse the PDF is constant. Therefore you remove the minus sign, so x minus mu x the whole square over sigma square, 2 times sigma square, plus y minus mu y the whole square divided by 2 sigma square equal to constant is an ellipse. Now the shape of the ellipse is like this. So this is an ellipse, and it is an ellipse that centered at the mu x and mu y. So the center point of the ellipse is mu x and mu y. There are now these are the means. So mu x and mu y are means of the random variables x and y. If those sigma x's and sigma y's are equal, then what will happen? Sigma x equal to sigma y, then you will get a circle. Okay, that ellipse would be actually a circle. Therefore the ellipse becomes a circle when sigma x equal to sigma y. Ellipse is a circle when sigma x equal to sigma y. That is standard deviation of the random variable x equal to the standard deviation of the random variable y. But if on the other hand the sigmas are different, then you are going to get an ellipse that has a contour of this kind. So now let us take some 2-3 cases. Case 1. In the case 1, sigma x is not equal to sigma y, and sigma x is greater than sigma y. In that case, you will get an ellipse like this. Let me try using like this. You'll get an ellipse. Okay, different ellipses. The center point is mu x and mu y. So here sigma x is greater than sigma y. By the way, this is x axis and this is the y axis. Okay, so In this case the sigmas are different. Sigma x is not equal to sigma y. The standard deviation of x is not equal to the standard deviation of the y. Therefore you are going to get an ellipse of this kind, and that has a contours of this kind. This is called contours. For different values of x and y, you'll get different contours of this kind. So if my contours of this kind, then that corresponds to what? Sigma x is sigma x being bigger than the sigma y, or vice versa. Therefore contours of this kind, basically tells you that x is more likely to spread out than y. So it tells you x is more likely to be spread out than y. That means what? When sigma x is greater than sigma y, that is implies sigma x square is greater than sigma y square. Therefore sigma x square is larger than the sigma y square. So basically sigma x square is variance of the random variable y, variance of x. If variance is more, then it spreads out a lot. Therefore the spreading of x is greater than the spreading of y. So the range of possible x's is bigger. See, the range is bigger here. See, look at here. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, like this. If you measure, the range is very large here. So therefore range of x's is bigger. But on the other hand, if you look at y side, here the range of y is smaller. So big x's have roughly the same probability as certain smaller y's. Suppose let me take this point. This is my bigger x, this bigger x, and smaller y. So this is smaller y. This bigger x and the smaller y will have the same probability. So the picture of this kind is telling us like the variance of x is going to be bigger than the variance of y. So that is the conclusion of this picture. So depending on how these variances compare with each other, that is going to determine the shape of the ellipse. Whether the ellipse is bigger or smaller, or it is elongated in the x direction, or it is elongated in y direction. So it all depends on by the variance of the random variables x and y. Now if variance of the y were bigger, then the ellipse would be the other way. So let me take case 2. In this, the variance of y is bigger and sigma x is not equal to sigma y. So now what will happen? The figure looks like this. You have an ellipse, another ellipse, like this. Okay. So anyway, the figure is not centered at this point, but it's look like an ellipse. Therefore, the ellipse will be in the other way. It is elongated in the other dimension. That is, it is elongated in the y direction. Okay. So now case 3, the same argument we can argue here also. In this one, sigma y is greater than sigma x. So the range of y is larger here, and here the range of x is smaller. Okay, and this point has the same property than this point. So larger value has the same property than the shorter value, the smaller value. So these are the points to be noted from this diagram. Now case 3, where sigma x equal to sigma y. So in that case, you'll get a circle. The center is again mu x comma mu y. Where is the circle? No, it doesn't have any circle. No problem. Let me draw the circle on my own. Oh, it is a circle. Good. Like this. So different circles. Like this. This is your y, and this is x, and this point is mu x, mu y. These are called contours. Just visualize it a little more. Let me throw out you a particular picture. Let us consider the following case. Suppose the random variable x and y are independent and each with a standard normal density function. Let us simplify the case. X and y are standard normal. When I say standard normal, then mu x equal to mu y equal to 0. Why I am considering? Because to simplify the notation and to make the concept a little more easy. Okay. So then sigma x square equal to sigma y square equal to 1. Therefore, your density function is written like this, phi of z, not with x. Okay. So when it is normal, standard normal, then we use z. Therefore, phi of z equal to 1 by root of 2 pi e to the minus 1 by 2 z squared. So let me write that is c times e to the minus 1 by 2 z squared. This is my standard normal. If you want to write phi x of z, then it is c times e to the power of minus 1 by 2 x squared. Let me put x here. And phi y of y, then this is c times e to the minus 1 by 2 y squared, where what is the value of c? C I assumed 1 by root of 2 pi, constant. The joint density of x and y is given by the multiplication of the marginal density functions. So phi x of x times phi y of y. So this is c times c squared times e to the minus x squared by 2 times e to the power e to the y squared minus y squared over 2. So this is c squared e to the minus x squared plus y squared over 2. So the key property of this joint density is that it is a function of x squared plus y squared. That means this one, let me call x squared plus y squared equal to r squared, where r is a radial distance from the origin of the point x comma y. Since the mean is 0, you will get a circle with a center of 0 comma 0. Okay, so where what is r is the radial distance from the origin of the point. Origin of the point x comma y. So this makes the graph of this joint density a round bell shaped surface over x comma y plane with a cross section proportional to the standard normal curve. So let me show you this picture. Insert pictures. Done. So the picture looks like this. This is standard normal, and this is the x-axis, and this one is y-axis. Okay, so like this. This is your f x comma y of x comma y. Okay, so let us visualize through this picture. Okay, so this is a picture of one special case. Okay, here as I said, the variances are equal. So sigma x square equal to sigma y square equal to 1. Okay, so that is the kind of shape you will get it. So either you move on the x direction or in the y direction, the variance is same. It looks like a two-dimensional bell. Okay, this diagram looks like a two-dimensional bell. So remember, for a normal random variables, for a single random variable, you get a PDF that is a bell shaped. So you'll get like this. I'm sorry. because of shape it is giving like that. It is giving like this. So it is a bell shaped curve. It is a one dimensional bell shaped curve for a single random variable. And this is a two dimensional bell for two random variables. Okay, so that is just this is just a bell shaped curve, and this is a real bell shaped curve. So in the two dimensional case, we get the joint PDF, which is bell shaped again. This is a one dimensional, and this is a two dimensional. And now in the two dimensional, it looks more like a real bell. See, this looks like a real bell. The way it would be laid out in ordinary space. So this is x-axis and the y-axis. In the ordinary x and y-axis, it looks like a real bell. And if you look at the contours of this function, the places where the function is equal. Contour means what? The places where the function is equal. It takes a constant value. Okay, so it is a this is a contour. And this is the contour. It takes the real value. Okay, and the contour would have this shape like it looks like a circle. If you draw, because in the other dimension I couldn't show here, so if you draw a line like this, then it is like a circle. Okay, so it looks like a circle on the xy plane. If you take the cross section of this, then it will get a circle. So the typical contour would have this shape, like a circle shape, and it would be an ellipse if sigma x is not equal to sigma y. Okay, but in this case it will be like more like a circle, because sigma x equal to sigma y. In case if sigma x is not equal to sigma y, it won't be a symmetric, it won't be a circle, it will be like an ellipse. So let me show you figure, then you can understand better. So pictures 1 and 2. Yeah. Now look at this figure. See, this is one axis. So this is one axis. Let me call x, and now the scale is not clear. And this is another axis. And now in one direction it is more spreaded. See, in y direction the variance is more here. In y direction the variance is more, or I can say variance is large. But in the x direction, if you look at in the x direction, the variance is less. The variance is small. So therefore here sigma y is greater than sigma x, and sigma x is not equal to sigma y. This is a one case. So therefore if you draw the contour for this contour, you don't get a circle, you'll get an ellipse in this case. Okay, so this would be the different contours. This would be the different contours, and so the contours are places where the joint PDF is constant. So in this place, in the contours, the joint PDF is constant. Basically, when I say contour, in that contour the joint PDF is constant. On that particular contour. Now when you change the value of that constant, you get the different contours. Okay, and the PDF is of course centered around the mean, and this PDF also centered around the mean, and centered the mean mu x and mu sub y. And the okay, so this is a particular case, since the bell is centered up around this one. This one is a particular case where the bell is centered around 0, 0. The center point is 0, 0. But this is some arbitrary value, this one. And if you look at this figure, this axis, let me call this is x axis, and this is y axis. Okay, the other way, right? Yeah, in the x axis, the range is more here. Range is large. In the the y-axis range is less, small. Therefore here sigma x is greater than sigma y, but here it is opposite. Sigma y is greater than sigma x here, and here sigma x is greater than sigma y. Therefore you will get an ellipse like this. Okay, if you take the contour of this circle, then you'll get an ellipse. So in this particular case, since the bell is centered around the 0, 0 vector, and this is a plot of a bivariate normal. So this is also called a bivariate normal. It has two variables. Bivariate normal with the 0 means. 0 means. Bivariate normals are also interesting when your bell is oriented differently in space. See, the bell is oriented like this, like a circle. Circle like this. One second. Oh, it's not coming. Okay, let me draw normal figures like this. And 1 minute. Let me draw this axis like this. So center is 0, 0. Okay, now sometimes bivariate normals are also interesting when your bell is oriented differently in space. See, this is the case where sigma x equal to sigma y, and another case we considered the ellipsis like this. And if you have the ellipsis like this, then sigma x is greater than sigma y, and moreover x and y are independent. This is very important point. Independent. And if you have the ellipse like this, and here sigma x is less than sigma y, again x and y are independent. And here also sigma x equal to sigma y, and x and y are independent. X and y are independent, but we have three cases. One is where sigma x equal to sigma y, and the other one is sigma x is greater than sigma y, and the third one is sigma x is less than sigma y. But sometimes if you orient the this ellipses in some other direction rather than this one, see here x is independent of the y, and here also x is independent of y. In case if I have the contours like this, wait a minute, this is wrong again. Oh, it is not coming. Okay. Now in this case, you cannot say which is bigger and which is lesser, and also you cannot say x and y are independent. Okay, you cannot say x and y are independent. So how do you get this type of shape? How do you get? Well, you could imagine like a bell. You take the bell and you squash them. Squash the bell either in the x direction or in the y direction. Then they become narrow in one dimension. Okay, if you press in one direction, then it will become narrow in that dimension. And then maybe you rotate them. Okay, so let's say initially I have a bell like this with a shape of circle. Then what you do is you press in the x direction or y direction. So you will get like this. After pressing, After pressing you will get like this. Then you rotate this guy from here to here, squash the bell, and then from this step to this step rotate somehow. Therefore it becomes like this, okay. So we are if we have a joint PDF and whose contours were like this, the joint PDF contours were like this, okay. Joint PDF contours were like this. What would that correspond to? Now the question is, would your x's and y's be independent? This is x and this is y. So the answer is no, they cannot independent, they are dependent. So we are slowly moving from independent random variable to dependent dependent. They are dependent random variables, okay. So this figure would indicate that there is a relation between x's and y's. That is, when you have a bigger x's, then you would expect to also get a bigger y's. So it would be the case of dependent normals. So let me write down some important points. This is very important point because based on this only we are going to build a very important concept called covariance and the correlation coefficient. So that is why I am going little slow in this. Let me write down in terms of words. If let me write, when you have bigger x's, you would also bigger y's. Therefore it would be the case or family of dependent normals. When you have two normal random variables and those two normal random variables are independent, then you will get a curve like this, or you will get a curve like this, contours, or you will get a circle like this. But if the moment it is dependent, then you don't get this kind of three shapes. You will get like this, something like this, okay. So therefore whenever you get the shape of like this, then it indicates dependent normal random variables. So if you have a contour plot that has let's say a shape of this kind, this indicates that some kind of dependence between your two random variables. So again, let me write fresh page. So this indicates some kind of dependence between two random variables. Okay, so at this point let me stop. In the next lecture I'll talk about this furthermore. Okay, thank you very much.